Hello, folks. This is Noah Frere, Astrology, and I'd like to talk to you about Imane Khelif, the Algerian boxer who won the gold in the Olympics recently. We're going to get kind of specific about the astrology this time. So if that's a little much for you, I understand. We're going to talk about Persephone, maybe a touch about Chariklo. These are asteroids, not major planets. But I use Persephone in every reading I do. So I'm going to just share the chart, and we'll see what we see here. Okay, so we don't have a birth time for Imani, but we know her birthday is, as I understand it, May 2nd, 1999. You will notice just briefly that she has a Saturn Pallas Athena conjunction across from Mars. And that, like, these are two warriors. Pallas Athena, she's a strategic, smart warrior, whereas Mars is kind of bloody and not so smart. That opposition is a little bit of a foreshadowing of what's to come. And Saturn like clamps down on things. And now this, remember, this is not necessarily her 10th house because we don't know her birth time. So just ignore the houses in this arrangement. The one thing I want to really bring attention to is her North Node, which I see as life purpose, is directly with her Chariklo. They're both at 18 degrees. Chariklo is Chiron's wife, and she represents sacred space, holding space for things. If you have Chariklo and the North Node together, that means you're holding space for your purpose. But there's a sense in which if you're linked into the purpose of everyone, because everyone has a North Node, then, and also your specific people that you represent, then you're holding space for the collective as well, if you can kind of tap into that. So I think that's a strong point in her chart. And notice that she has this Lilith, Moon, and Chiron conjunction. Chiron is your deepest wounds. Moon is like your feelings and what embodies all the energies into your body and into your, it's like your emotional body as well. And Lilith is where you are left out of the group, where you're excluded. And so, like, being excluded is one of her wounds, and she has a she's very much tapped into that wound because it's right there with her Chiron and Moon are together. So she feels her wound, or there's the potential for her to feel her wound deeply. And it is very much has have to do with exclusion. And then also this Juno Pluto thing is interesting because um, Juno, normally I think of it as like your ideal partner, but it can also represent commitment to something. And Pluto's important for her chart because Persephone is, Persephone, where's Persephone? She's over here. I didn't circle her, but she's in Aries, so like a fighting kind of Persephone. Persephone is most importantly when you are a girl and you're becoming a woman. That is one thing Persephone really represents, whether you're a male or female. It's that feminine part of you that is like blossoming into womanhood. And so she's usually I see her as a difficult asteroid, but Persephone was taken away from her mom by Pluto. And so Pluto's important. And the fact that she has Pluto and Juno means there's some kind of commitment to Plutonian territory, to like Hades-like territory. All right, so that's just kind of a little touch on her birth chart. But what we really want to do is look at her some specific events that happened to her, starting with when she was disqualified from the World Championship in 2023. And this is such a huge event because she was like literally in the competition, and then they decided she can't compete because of ideas of gender. And what was I highlighted a bunch of points here, and I guess one thing to point out is like this North Node, her life purpose was directly being gone over in the sky by Lilith. Lilith was passing over her life purpose, like being left out of the ring, basically, right? This is when she was not allowed to be a woman anymore. Look at the sun. The sun vitalizes and shines light on things. So the sun was passing over her Persephone. Now you could imagine that that would have had the opposite effect. Like, wow, she is like being a woman, but Persephone doesn't mean girlhood or womanhood. It's just the whole arrangement between those two things. It's like, is she becoming a woman? Is she not be becoming a woman? And the sun sheds light on that dynamic. But since Lilith is on her North Node, it's like highlighting that which has been excluded. So she's basically being excluded from being recognized as a woman by this disqualification. Um, Also notice that the North Node, how her current life expresses itself at this time, is passing over her Pallas Athena, that warrior, that strategic warrior. It's like she's leaning into what is her life purpose as she's currently playing it out have to do with her warrior side. And similarly, her South Node, which is like your talent, sure, but it's also stuff that you're not supposed to cling to. So like letting go of things, let go of Mars, letting go of one warrior while embracing another warrior. Because we all have different warrior sides to us. And so Mars is one kind of warrior, Pallas Athena is another kind of warrior. And then just the fact that her moon was on the sun just kind of like triggers her vitality, right? And like what's happening, her kind of core is being triggered by the moon. The moon triggers all sorts of things whenever it passes over anything or has an aspect with something. And then the last thing I'd like to point out here is Ceres. That's Persephone's mom. So she's really important. She's also Pluto's sister. She represents nurturing and unconditional love. Well, Mars was right on top of her Ceres. So Mars is like, I don't think so. You're not getting the love this time. So that was her disqualification last year. Then we fast forward to the Olympics. Now, this is from August 1st, when she was first, when all the news hit the headlines that, like, oh, is Imane not really a woman? Well, we'll notice that Persephone was across from Mars on that day and generally that week. And so that, again, that opposition is a tension between her fighter and like, Jupiter just like makes things abundant or magnifies things. So this magnificent Mars, this fighting energy was opposed by that aspect of her that isn't being allowed to be a woman. Like she wants to be recognized as a woman because that's what she is, but the world is having its own ideas about it. So there's some opposition here. Now, there is a sense in which when the Olympic Committee decided that she is actually a woman and this will stand, she was kind of re-womanified. She was allowed to be a woman after all in the eyes of the Committee of the Olympics. And for people who like read the news and research it, I believe she's a woman based on what I've read. And so this is kind of an exoneration. You'll see Persephone is down here with Pluto. So and Juno, the like commitment to deep psychology, you could read that as. And when Persephone is with those guys, that again could look like a couple of different things. In this case, I think it looks like she went down into the psychological depths of truth, because Pluto is like hard truths also, where she was allowed to actually be recognized as a woman. And this Chariklo, remember that was in the first chart we showed up here. Chariklo is holding sacred space for life purpose. That Chariklo is now during this August 1st Olympic fight that came out and all the news that came afterwards was right with Psyche. Psyche is an asteroid that's actually has like a metal core and there's not even any rock around it. So it's a very awesome asteroid like that. And it's very appropriately named Psyche, since the psyche is like kind of the core of our psychology. So holding space for this like psychic energy and connection that she has with whatever part of the universe that is playing out, which in this case is her womanhood, that is on top of Uranus at this time. And Uranus is the great revealer. So like her holding space for these deep psychic truths that have to do with her commitment to like hard truths of becoming an actual woman. She was already a woman, but she wasn't recognized as a woman in 2023. And now the Olympics is upholding her womanhood, is being revealed here. And then her life purpose is very close. The life purpose as it's moving through the sky and evolving is very close to her Persephone. So I'm just pointing out different triggers here and what they could mean. Also, this is an exact timestamp, 6:20 p.m. in France, and the IC, which is like the roots where you get nutrients to support your life or the chart of the moment, is also close here to the North Node and Persephone. So she's like digging deep down into her own Persephone, her own girlhood becoming a woman, in order to realize this exoneration that she has from the disqualification from 2023. And then, this is all three charts together, her birth chart, when she was disqualified, and when she was in the Olympics. I'm not going to look at that because it's a little much for now. The last chart I want to look at is when she won the gold. That was a few days ago on August 9th. We have a timestamp of 4:51 p.m. And the thing that really just sprung out immediately, look at this. Persephone exactly rising, 8 degrees, like literally coming up over the horizon as she won the gold medal. And that was when I saw that. That was just, I was already planning on doing all of this presentation last week. Actually, I prepared all this, but just like 5 minutes ago, I looked up this chart and I was like, oh, that's just so beautiful. She has fully not only become a woman, but like the whole world now must recognize her as the winner of the gold medal at the Olympics as a woman in the gender of womanhood. And there's a lot more we could say about that. Like Lilith, actually, I haven't even looked at this chart. I'm looking at it now. Lilith, the one that's like left out of society, she hears exactly what the South Node, 7 degrees, 7 degrees. What does South Node mean? Letting go, shedding the exclusion, embracing new womanhood. It's just a beautiful thing that Persephone can offer us in our chart that is different from the other major planets. All right, thanks for listening. And I hope you got something from this little presentation on Persephone and Imane Khelif representing Algeria. Good job, Imane. I'm proud of you.